thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today's video is going to start with a paper pad. Now, originally, this was going to be about the paper pad, but it kind of turned into a what can we do with triangles card making session. And I'm going to show you lots of cards today that we can create just with using some scissors and a trimmer and sort of simple, quick, gorgeous ideas that we can put together. I'm using this Brights paper pad, Basic Brights by Brutus, Monroe, and this is, this is very bright, I will say that. I love that it's got a solid of each color and then a pattern of each color. That makes life really easy when you are trying to coordinate like matting layers and things like that. I definitely look for in a paper pad, I look for making sure that there are some solid colors that I can use. I find that all straight paper pads that just have just patterns are a little bit limiting for me personally. So I definitely look for one that has some solids. This one here, I have some 1 by 1 inch squares, and I'm just cutting these with scissors down the middle. You can use the trimmer as well to do this, absolutely. Like this one here, I'll show you, you just line up the two corners at the top and bottom on the cutting blade, and then you're going to get a perfect gorgeous triangle too. But for me, scissors are just as speedy. Now I'm going to go through and do this with several different colors. Now, although this is a super gorgeous paper pad, and I definitely recommend it, the ideas that I am using today, I hope that you can just take with any pattern paper that you have. You might even have some backgrounds that you have created, and this would be perfect for them because you'll see that actually it's just about the patterns and the colors, and that can come from lots of different places, not just from a paper pad. So sometimes when you create a background that you create multiples of, or you get really involved in a technique and you make many of them, that's what we can use some of those pieces for. So for this one, I have got lots and lots of triangles, to be fair. And then all I'm going to do, and this is so simple, triangles are a great shape to work with. You could either do all solid here, or you could go pattern solid. I decided to go all solid for this one, but then I will come along with some different patterns too. So all you need to do to create this gorgeous easy zigzag pattern is sort of, half the triangle along, you stick the other one going in the other direction. And super simple, but even just this pattern alone, the zigzag pattern alone, can be used in so many different applications. I'm going to show you a couple of them today. I'm going to show you some other designs today, and then I'm going to show you a card that is sort of a bit more than just popping down cardstocks and those sorts of things. It's a little bit more involved with stamping and cardstocks, but the options are absolutely endless. This one, I'm going to speed through this really fast because at this point you get the gist of where we're going. This one, I'm going to use the pattern side of the blue, and you could do this in a rainbow. Of course, you can adjust the size. I used a 1 by 1 inch square to begin with, and then cut them in half to create the triangles. But of course, if you wanted smaller triangles, then just make the square smaller to begin with. You could have bigger triangles. You could, all sorts of things that you could do with this to transform how the outcome looked. Then I decided I wanted a little bit to finish it off, so I got some purple ones to go down the bottom just to make the pattern very complete. Then I'm going to turn it over. I take some long bladed scissors. These are the Tim Holtz 9.5 inch long bladed scissors. And these are so handy when it comes to, you can kind of use the edge of the paper as a guide and sort of push your scissors into it so that you get a nice smooth line. You can also use a trimmer, but depending on what adhesive you use, you don't want to gunk that up. So there's a really easy, I'm going to turn all of these into cards, but I'm going to move along and create some of the backgrounds first, and just sort of keep going whilst I have the paper pad out. For the next design option, I want to take advantage of the fact that there are, again, a patterned image and then a solid image of the same color, and we can use it to our advantage. I'm just taking the 6x6 sheets that came out of the paper pad, and I've actually got a couple here lined up. There's a yellow underneath, and I'm just cutting these in direct quarters, and then we can go from there. I'm going to do this with a couple of different colors, so I just went through and cut them, and then this is where you can truly choose sort of what you mix and match together. I have a scrap piece of paper down there that's just a piece of copy paper that can be easily die cut through. Then I'm going to take and just create this sort of little almost diamond, I guess, looking pattern, obviously using squares. I use some liquid glue so that I can shift these around and really make them nice and even and keep everything together. Of course, when you end up, depending on how you do this, if you cut a square out of this, then you could make the pattern again on using the leftovers, but I'm actually going to cut some different shapes from these. So I'm going to do another one here, finding the yellow is going to be the pattern side, and then the greens is going to be the solid. And this is obviously, again, endless. This can be endless options doing this. But once these are nice and dry, I'm able to do a little bit of die cutting with these ones. If you need a little bit more stability, then I just go behind it and add a little bit of double stick tape. This either will or won't be used in the final project, but I know that I'll be using some double-sided tape for the final ones of these, so it doesn't bother me that I put a little bit behind it now. Even if some gets die cut off or cut off at the end, I can just add more where need be. And then from here, you could use a trimmer to cut out some shapes if you wanted to. I'm going to use a couple of very simple stacking die sets. So the first one I'm going to use is going to be a rectangle, and I'm going to turn it on its side, and so that I kind of capture all four of the colors. There is obviously other ways to do this, absolutely. And as I said, you could use a trimmer to trim out the shapes. That would be fun too. But this one, I'm going to use the Hero Arts Infinity rectangle dies and turn it on its side. There are lots of really fun options when using cardstock that don't involve a whole lot of supplies, and I think that's what this video is about. It's about the fact that we don't have to have a million dies and all the fancy new things. I love using what's in my stash. I love making the most of the products that I choose to invest in. And so when I pick up a gorgeous paper pad like this, it doesn't have to be complex, or it doesn't only have to be used for matting layers or anything like that. I can just get out a whole lot of cardstock, and whether that be backgrounds or paper pads or anything like that, and just have a whole lot of fun putting different shapes together, putting different ideas together. They don't necessarily have to be complex and complicated and long. Some of them are quicker, some of them are a little bit longer. I just really enjoy having a good play with paper crafts and sharing my ideas with you. Some of them are more simple, and I sometimes lean towards that because I am often pushed for time. I usually only have a small amount of time. But yeah, I really enjoy both styles of cards. This second one here, I wanted to do a heart, a gorgeous love heart, and I'm going to, it does hurt my heart a little bit to die cut out of the middle of something. However, I sort of knew what I wanted roughly, and so I am going to do it. All these spare pieces, do not get rid of those at all, because I'm going to show you what we're going to do with those in another card, because we're going to use all of our scraps and make sure we use up as much as we can. So by all means, even though I have die cut straight out of the middle of that, just hold that thought and we will use them, I promise. So a couple of really quick cards. This is where I said that we were again going to add some double-sided tape onto the back of these, and that little piece of copy paper was really easy to die cut through. That's why I use just really thin paper as a base there, because your dies are not only having to work through cutting the cardstock. And I would say this paper pad has fairly thick card. This is definitely not paper. It's more of a cardstock in my opinion. And so it's a decent weight, which means that, as I said, when you add another layer of paper, you want your dies to still be able to cut through it. And so that's why I quite like using really thin copy paper. So once I have these two here, I've got my heart offset a little bit off to the edge, and we want to finish off some of these. The happy birthday sentiments from Pinkfresh Studios. I have used the hearts are from a crinkle cut heart set from scrapbook.com, and the other shape is from the Tim Holtz a Thinlits set that he has. I think it's called Labels maybe, or Vintage Labels or something like that. But I will link everything down below. I will find the proper names for them and make sure that everything is down there in case you want to check it out, in case you didn't catch how I said it or what I was saying and you want to have a look at the item to see if you've got something similar. Then no matter what, the links will be down below so you can check it out. And if you do want to do some shopping, then as always, I really do appreciate you using those links too. But I am just going to use a little bit of masking with some of these sentiments to get them pieced out how I want them to look, I absolutely could cut the stamps apart, but particularly with some of these little finer sort of sub-sentiments, I prefer to keep those together because once I cut them apart, once I start doing that, the prospect of me losing them gets higher and higher. So I definitely try not to cut little tiny sentiments apart. Usually I will happily cut larger ones for sure. Then I have popped them on a little piece of vellum because these backgrounds are pretty bright and cheerful and out there, and so I can just make a little bit of sort of quieter space around the sentiment just to help it stand out a little bit more, and I can do that using some vellum. Then I've popped it up on some foam tape. Beautiful, simple, happy cards. I will do the same for these two. I pop them on some double-sided tape to go straight down onto the vellum, and then I pop the foam tape behind the vellum. If you pop the vellum right up close to the bold colours, then you tend to get more of a see-through look. Whereas if you pop the vellum up and then pop the sentiment on directly onto the vellum, you tend to get more of that separated look between them. Now here is where we are going to start using our scraps. I had some little triangles left over, I had some little squares left over, I have random pieces left over, I have larger triangles like this one from when I die cut my large rectangles out and my hearts, all sorts of shapes. This is a piece of copy paper, and you could by all means just put down some double-sided adhesive sheets and then go from there. You can see I've even got that triangle from the hearts that I used there, and you just put it all down on a big piece of paper. Use up all of your scraps, and then I will show you in just a minute how we are going to make a card with that one too. Then I have these gorgeous butterflies here. This set is very simple because it's just the 2 butterflies. And obviously there's 2 different sizes, but there's only 2 steps to this. So I'm going to keep this super, super simple and do one in black and then one in white. On the back of the white piece of cardstock, I do have some double-sided adhesive sheets. I'm using the Sizzix adhesive sheets. These die cut beautifully, which is one of the reasons that I'm using them as well. And then I can stick these 2 layers together without me having to do anything else, and a gorgeous butterfly is there. Then I'm going to take, this is from the Master Layouts 2, I think. I'm going to take a rectangle die. This one has some gorgeous stitching on it. And then you can see you can take a whole little piece there, and we get a gorgeous card front. Now I can get several out of here. If I'd kept going with more and more of the pieces, I will eventually glue more on, and I probably will just store this extra leftover piece with my pack of paper, and that way as I get more and more scraps I can keep adding to it and then just keep doing this and cutting pieces out of it. But out of all of those gorgeous, gorgeous scraps, we get this absolutely eclectic mix of colours and beautiful designs, and very, very random. And I think this absolutely looks just as good as the other ones that we have created. So waste not, want not. Make sure that you try and look at your scraps with fresh eyes, and that you can use them in lots of different ways. Then, as I said, this is just super, super simple card making. I didn't feel like doing a whole lot of intricate work today, but working with cardstock and coming up with lots of different options is super fun. Now, this was actually about half a day later when I had a little minute longer. I wanted to do a little bit more to create this card, and I'm going to take some brown ink, some vintage photo brown ink, and I'm just going to make a pretty quick card still, but using one of the techniques that I showed you earlier with the triangles. Now, these 2 stamp sets here are a couple that I have had for a bit now. This one is going to be the old labels by Woodware, and it just has this sort of, I guess this is writing paper or something, just lines, and it just creates some background texture. I just pulled out a few colours of these little mini archival inks, which I haven't used in forever, and if I'm not going to use them in my stash, then they need to go. So I'm just trying them out and seeing what I think of them. Then I have the mini Postmarks stamp set here, and I'm just using the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink to stamp some of these in the background, just a little bit of background noise. I want the top to be pretty much completely clear, so I'm going to leave that because there will be a little dividing line made by, again, the same paper pad that I had earlier. And so I'm just going to choose some patterns that I want to go. These are fairly bright, but I like the contrast between the sort of vintagey background that we've created, sort of dirty and brown and scuffed and not perfect. And then we're going to get some bright, colourful cardstock. I've got some greens and some blues that we're going to add to the front. So a beautiful contrast. Again, I did 1 1/4 inches this time, and then I am going to cut all of these down the middle, create that triangle little zigzag wave, except for this time I wanted it to be just sort of a fraction softer. So I'm going to use my corner chomper and put all of these in. I probably should have done this when they were squares, but that's okay, and it doesn't actually make a difference. And this will just sort of soften the corners of that zigzag, I guess, as we go along. And so I'm going to create pretty much the same pattern. I could have done either patterns or solids, but I am going to do pretty much patterns for this one. As I said, it's sort of a bright in-your-face element to what's going on here. While I am doing this, I will mention my Facebook group that seemingly, I think, I always get surprised by how many people have didn't know that we have one. It's an amazing group of people. They are so supportive. There is thousands and thousands of members. Just a really nice space to be able to post your work and that we're inspired by these videos, and you can kind of take it off in any tangent and direction that you want to. I always love the idea that you can get a really simple idea from one of my videos and then take it and run with it and change it and make it your own. That is one of the big reasons why I have my YouTube channel, why I share the videos. I love the idea that something can just sort of click with you and you can take it and know that you don't have to have all the amazing beautiful things, all the amazing beautiful setup, all of those things, and you can still create these gorgeous fun cards like the ones that we have created today. So these are the 5 cards that I created. I did add a few little gems and some iridescent ones, some iridescent sequins for that one, and sometimes if it's got lots and lots of colors going on, I'll go with the nice sort of subtle iridescent ones, or white or clear or something like that. And then when I'm able to match up a color, I will go with, you know, something that matches the colors I've used in the actual card. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here, and I truly look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye.